First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DePrima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in to First Things First with the Queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DePrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. You know this show is called First Things First, and my first thing every single day of the year, giving thanks, giving praises, asking for blessings from God Almighty, from the ancestors, from the elders. And let's go. Happy Talking Point Tuesday. Yes, Talking Point Tuesday is back with me from Africa. Talking Point Tuesday is when you can help me to dismantle the talking points, the propaganda, the stealthy tweets that infect our brains with ideas and concepts that do not serve us, or just things we're just not paying attention to, that sort of we repeat and we repeat and we repeat. Some of them are like Trojan horses for your brain, actually undermining your own self-esteem and your progress, your community progress, your people's progress. So be it. We aim to take them apart today. And so hour one, we typically, look to the local. What's happening in your community, in your city, on your block. That's what we do. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And of course, the local is part of that. So you can call in, weigh in today, because it is a Talking Point Tuesday. I'll be joined in hour two by a Republican strategist this week. We'll get our gray matter stimulated with some oppositional viewpoints. I think that's good for all of us. When we defend our points of view, we become stronger and we understand why we think the way we think. Melanie Collette, a business technology expert and political commentator, will be joining me hour two. Hour three, we're doing a deep dive as BLM turns 10. And I'm welcoming my friend and colleague, Dr. Melina Abdullah. Excuse me. She'll be in studio with me. So you'll be able to watch us on YouTube. I'm on YouTube right now, youtube.com. And then, of course, you put KBLA 1580. That's where we are on every single platform. KBLA 1580 on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and the like. So, whatever your platform, please join us. Please follow us. Please like us. It makes a difference. And hey, you might find out about some content that you otherwise would have missed. What's good? Well, I think Black Lives Matter turning 10 is part of what's good for so many reasons. One of them being that the work continues, whether you hear about it or whether you don't. The work continues. Whether you're part of it or not. And you can be part of it in a lot of different ways. It doesn't necessarily mean marching like you did in 2020 or like you did in 1972 or whenever you was marching. It could be letter writing, door knocking, making phone calls, petitions. It could be, you're the sandwich lady for the movement. Whatever it is, we can all play a role, and that continues. That work continues. It's not a trend. It's not a moment. It's a movement. So celebrating 10 years and the fact that really when Black Lives Matter jumped off the page, off the tweet, from hashtag to actual marches and protests, that happened here right where I'm broadcasting from Leimert Park, Africa Town, USA. And that's where we will be celebrating. All are welcome 12 to 6 on Saturday. I will be emceeing, as will Tavis Smiley, and a number of other high-profile folks will be there. We'll have a keynote speech from Dr. Cornel West, a.k.a. the presidential candidate for the Green Party. There's going to be a children's village, vendors, and workshops, a special healing garden for impacted families, and many impacted families will be there to speak and to share, including the family of Trayvon Martin, Sabrina Fulton, and the family of Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake, and others who will speak. And, you know, that's the most important thing, more important than celebrating ourselves as activists, more important than celebrating celebrities or music, although that will be part of it, but is showing those families that the support is still there, that we haven't given up on Black lives, we haven't given up on our movement, we haven't given up on justice, and we never will. I don't think, I mean, you know, even as we see people sell out and fall by the wayside, and we do see that, there's always the stalwarts. There's always new voices coming in. So the movement will not die, even though there can be discouraging signs, right? LA Times today has a front page story about the diversity, equity, and inclusion people in Hollywood getting fired, getting pushed out, stepping down because of burnout. And it's something that's been going around the internet for couple weeks now already. It's just now hitting the LA Times, but it's been the talk of Instagram and Twitter, which is that many of these folks, some of them predate 2020 and the protests around George Floyd, but some do not. And many of them are being pushed out or fired as part of budget cuts as entertainment companies scale down. I think it's quite interesting that one executive is quoted in this article saying diversity, equity, and inclusion is the first thing to be cut. Well, that tells a lot unto itself. Just the fact that anyone would admit that on the record, the fact that this is a true thing. I mean, I myself have worked in a position that could be considered a DEI position when I was the community action director for a hip hop and R&B radio station, which I'm sure you remember because it's immortalized on Tupac's song. And I understand how that can be. It can just be window dressing, or it can be a real change maker. And that has to do with, does the person have a budget? Do they have decision-making authority? Who do they report to? All of those things can make a difference. If not, you can just be a person so they can say they have a person. Well, of course, these companies are pushing back, saying, no, they're just restructuring. We're talking Walt Disney, Netflix, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, member Oscar So White. These are black women who all have left their jobs right within the past month. And those aren't all of them. Apparently, the DEI person at the BBC has stepped down, and there are others. And Paula Madison is quoted. I love her quote here. She says, these companies say they're not pulling away from their commitment. She says, no, they're not. But they really didn't have much of a commitment in the first place. That's real talk. Well, talk about what's going on here locally. Dive a little deeper into this. What do we need to do to make sure we do not lose ground that we gained during 2020? I'm Dominique DePrima. You're welcome in. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward. Black Lives Matters turns 10, and KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to be the exclusive media partner of the People's Justice Festival. This Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. in Leimert Park. Come join us as we celebrate the life-saving and history-making work of Black Lives Matter to help bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. There will be live music performances, a children's village, giveaways, vendors, a healing justice space, Skillshare, and amazing speakers including Green Party presidential candidate Dr. Cornel West, live on stage at 4:30 p.m. For more information, go to blmgrassroots.org. That's www.blmgrassroots.org. Dominique DePrima and Tavis Smiley will be main stage hosts throughout the day, and the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation will be out in full force. So, join us this Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. at Leimert Park as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Black Lives Matter. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I done plant my seeds, now I'm rooted. Brown skin popping, I'm rooted. He pulled the hood out, but I'm rooted. Rooted, nappy head, rooted.
Moments like my daughter telling me a new joke mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative NBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Right now, I'm inviting you to call me, 800-920-1580, especially if you have something to say that's here, there, and everywhere about whatever's on your mind, because we do have a guest in hour 2, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on whatever you're thinking. 800-920-1580. The other thing I think is brought up when we're talking about DEI, right? And this exodus of diversity, equity, and inclusion officers from Hollywood entertainment companies. There's two pieces of one of those is the context of the times, where you have the DeSantis model, the DeSatan model of working to outlaw diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's starting with college campuses in Florida, and obviously will move into corporate America. That's, conservatives always say they're narrowly focused on, we just want states to have a right to decide about abortion. Then once they, overturn Roe versus Wade, and suddenly now they're pushing for a national ban. And we saw that coming. That's not a surprise. It's just how they roll. They lie and misrepresent, and then they continue to push the line forward, right? The line, even if it is, as we see the case with the Supreme Court right now, not in alignment with what the American people want or what we, the American people, stand for. So there's that. We got all these people leaving these diversity, equity, and inclusion posts in Hollywood at the same time that these folks are on the outside in the political space are working to outlaw the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what does that mean? It means DEI is more than likely, if they have their way, if we don't take back Congress, if we don't manage to find some consensus, some common ground among more people in this country, it will go the way of affirmative action. It will be banned. That affirmative action is meant to undo the harm of, enslavement, Jim Crow, and all of that, right? It's a reparative measure. And it's now basically illegal. I know you heard Attorney Jay-Person Lynn arguing on yesterday that we could create programs based on people's background, i.e., are you a descendant of enslaved people in this country? And yeah, that could happen. Is it likely to happen on a widespread basis? I doubt it. Is it likely to be attacked and stomped out by conservative forces? If it were to go through, I would say yes. And to me, the logical, DeSantis, I can't even say it. I want to say DeSatan. DeSantis is teeing it up in Florida. Starting with the universities, next it goes to corporate, and well, probably government, then corporate. You can't have diversity, equity, and inclusion. So while affirmative action is meant to repair decades of discriminatory policies and laws, not just a feeling that we had that somebody didn't like us, but the actual legal exclusion of our communities from opportunity, right? DEI is not even that. It's just saying, we'll include you. We'll let you in the door. Our practices of nepotism and exclusion of people of color, specifically black people, of women, that are de facto. They're not the law necessarily. At one point they were, but they're not the law now. They're just the practice. But you look at some of our Hollywood entertainment unions. What you have is family businesses, right? So it's nepotism. You have to know someone in there to get in. You have to have someone to sponsor you. And so it perpetuates the same people having all the opportunities. And those same people ain't black, right? DEI, whether it's on a corporate board, which also has the same problem. I mean, I've seen it in corporations I've worked for where the people say, well, we just don't know anybody. We don't know people that are qualified for the positions. That's on you. That's not on the people who are qualified that you don't know. Well, DEI just says we should have the same opportunity. It's like the NFL. You don't think there's black people that know football, that can coach an NFL team, that are ready? Just because you don't know them or you haven't offered them the opportunity, that malfeasance is on you, not on the qualified individuals who are knocking at the door and not getting in. So when you talk about the demise of DEI, even though a lot of them are window dressing and they may or may not be that effective, you're talking about a philosophy that says not only will we not repair the harm that's been done by 12 generations of your people working without pay, by many generations after that where you were in substandard schools and excluded from things like the GI Bill, and other opportunities, land giveaways, subsidies. Not only will we not repair the harm we've done, we don't even want you at the table in a fair, competitive situation. We're going to continue to use the advantage that we have through nepotism, through corporate cronyism, through the we don't know any qualified individuals line to keep you out. I'm not, at this point, we're not even saying help us get in. We're saying stop preventing us from getting in by creating unnecessary obstacles and by corporate cronyism. That's where we're going if we don't push back. Now, the other piece of that, so on the one hand, you've got this anti-DEI movement, which even though it may have started in Florida, is spreading because it's all over social media. And then the other side of that is, there's economic factors as we've got an economy that's struggling, and these entertainment companies who have put themselves in positions where, their shareholders are expecting a certain thing, or they've launched these streaming companies that cost a lot of money to launch, and now they want to take that out. They want to balance the budget on the backs of writers and actors, right? The directors already made their deal. So in the middle of an environment where the writers have been out on strike for quite a while. I don't even know how long it's been. It's been months. The writers have been on strike, and then we're hearing rumblings that the Screen Actors Guild, of which I am a member, may soon be going out on strike. I mean, we're making all the preparations. Now even the publicists have gotten involved in how do, meeting with union officials about how the big stars in the space can help the strike effort, a potential strike effort. These are things that don't just hurt the companies, they hurt the workers, the actors, the writers. Most actors and writers aren't wealthy. Most of them ain't Shonda Rhimes. The majority of them are not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who does 500 movies a year, apparently. Most of them are going from job to job, and have, I should say most of us, and have space in between those jobs, hustling, struggling, got side hustles. Even people that have written on famous and popular things, many times, they're still as wealthy as their last job, right? And so that environment makes it perilous for diversity initiatives. That to me is very problematic because in this environment where we know for sure corporations, and this is not just entertainment corporations, this is corporations across the board. Black Enterprise magazine has been doing an excellent job of tracking how many billions of dollars were pledged to anti-racist organizations, to organizations that fight for Black lives. And this is where, when we talk about, an organization like the NAACP or the Urban League profiting by the work of the more radical organizations like the Black Lives Matter movement or the Community Action Network or whoever it might be that's taking a stronger position, where a corporation will say, well, we're going to be part of the solution, but we don't want to go as far as donating to this organization, so we're just going to go ahead and give to the Urban League. That happened, but many of those dollars that were pledged have never been delivered. So the company gets the PR benefit of saying that they're going to help our movement against anti-Blackness, against racism, sexism, the so-called patriarchy. But in reality, it was just something they said. There's no accountability. The only accountability is us, we the people. Meaning, if we don't say, hey, yo, Netflix, you pledged $1 billion or 200 million or whatever it is, show me the money, and do that consistently as consumers, they ain't going to do it because there's no board of charitable contributions. You can tell your publicist that you're going to do this, and it can be reported in newspapers all around the world. And what happens if you don't do it? Nothing, unless we, the people, hold you accountable. Oof. Yeah, and at the same time, we've got the anti-Blackness. I understand why people don't want to hear BIPOC. I'm going to say it. And I'm going to include Latino people and other people of color. But I understand why people just want to hear black and blackety black black, because the anti-Blackness continues to be the leading edge of oppression. It continues to be, we continue to be the leader. And this is not where we want to be the leader. We continue to be the most frequent victims by a lot. It's not even close, of hate crimes, right? We continue to be last hired, first fired. We continue to be, which is what we're seeing with this DEI stuff. All these black women hired to help. And then I know, because I've been in that position, they don't just say, here's a budget, here's power, make a difference. You have to fight for every inch, even within the corporation that's paying you to make a difference. There is so much resistance to change that even while I have no problem with inclusion in the space of solidarity, I do believe we need to continue to center Blackness, because that oppression continues to center anti-Blackness. And so I hope, part of this is that we all show up on Saturday for some portion of the day, 12 to 6. Dr. Cornell West will be speaking, I think, at 4:30. I'll be there right at the top. I'll be there starting at noon, emceeing in the place to be, the main stage. You can go to blmgrassroots.org for more information on that. And I'm tying these together because so many of these pledges that were made, including hiring of more diversity, equity, and inclusion officers and the like, it came out of our marching. It came out of the Black Lives Matter movement, of which you are a part, whatever part you played. And so I think it would be nice to remind these companies, these lawmakers, in our community that we haven't gone anywhere. Yeah, we've had a pandemic. Yeah, all of us have jobs and we're trying to pay our $6,000 gas bills. Speaking of price gouging. But the sentiment hasn't changed. The commitment to ending anti-Blackness, racism, discrimination, white supremacy has not ended. Just because the white supremacists are talking louder, and they may be governors of states like, I don't know, Texas, Florida, it doesn't mean we are giving up, backing down, blacking down, as Tavis would say. It only means we are morphing and finding different ways to continue the fight. So I'll see you Saturday. Saturday at noon, Los Angeles, Leimert Park, Africatown, USA. Time for news, traffic, and sports. Then more conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
Thank you for sharing a part of your Tuesday morning with us here on the Black Information Network. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest. It still isn't clear as to how a small bag of cocaine ended up in the White House. The Secret Service is continuing its investigation into who brought the drugs into the West Wing and could wrap it up early this week. Agents found the powder during a routine sweep of the building on July 2nd while President Biden and his family were at Camp David for the holiday weekend. African-American actor Hill Harper is planning to run for U.S. Senate in Michigan. He's running as a Democrat for retiring Debbie Stabenow's seat. Alyssa Slotkin, his website frames Harper as a dedicated lawyer, actor, and single father, and his announcement video is dedicated to his son, who is adopted. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Lowe's is always bringing pros more ways to save. Right now, get up to 40% off select bathroom faucets and vanities. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 7/6 through 7/12 while supplies last. Selection varies by location, U.S. only.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Chris Eubanks has two very important distinctions attached to his name. He's only the third Black American male tennis player to reach the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. He's also the only American male left on the Wimbledon bracket. Eubanks, who grew up in Atlanta, continues his push towards history tonight. He faces Daniil Medvedev of Russia in the quarterfinals. Only two other Black American males made it to the Wimbledon quarterfinals. The legendary Arthur Ashe did it in 1968, 1969, and 1975. Malachi Washington made it in 1996. The Dodgers will have three starters in tonight's Major League Baseball All-Star game in Seattle. Right fielder Mookie Betts, first baseman Freddie Freeman, and designated hitter J.D. Martinez. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap from my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Maisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you. I do appreciate you, man. There's a lot going on here locally. You know, and to my conversation about anti-blackness, I'm not on some woe is me. You know that. People always criticize me for having rose-colored glasses because I believe we are winning. And you look at the big picture, I believe we are making progress. But we can't sleep on what's happening. The only way to solve a problem is to admit you have it, right? And this story about the federal investigation of Cedars-Sinai Hospital. It's deep, especially my friend and colleague Denise Pines was part of, creating a documentary about Black maternal health, Black maternal mortality, and how Black women are dying more than any other women in childbirth in this country. 2.6 times as often as white women. In 2023, right, when we have modern medicine and science, and you would think, well, apparently, if you look at that documentary, you'll see that Martin Luther King Community Health Center, thank you, Mark Ridley Thomas, is a leader in the country in best practices in saving Black women and Black women having births. Giving birth without dying. Martin Luther King Community Medical Center is one of the hospitals that people are looking at and saying, what are you doing right? Why are less Black women dying here? Well, now we find out there's a federal investigation of Cedars-Sinai Hospital because specifically of their mistreatment of Black women. That's deep. And I got to say, I'm not super surprised by it. I am a Black woman who gave birth at that hospital, and we fought. My then husband, he has worked in emergency rooms, as a social worker, whatever, emergency medical team. And so he knew his way around the hospital. So there was, he was up in their face, fighting every minute. And I'm grateful for that, to be honest with you. They were happy to let us go. Okay, bye, go home, go away. And I just thought, well, I didn't think of it as it's because I'm black. But I'm pretty sure he did, because I'm thinking about some of the conversations about what testing is to be done and, around the sickle cell testing and other things that they do. And in any case, there is a federal civil rights investigation on right now about how that hospital treats black women. And I guess it apparently was sparked by the death of this woman named Kira Johnson, who died during childbirth, a black woman, in 2016 at Cedars-Sinai. Her husband sued, and there were 2 lawsuits that he filed, and they were both settled out of court. But apparently, the Office of Civil Rights is saying, yes, they've been made aware of concerns regarding the standard of care provided to black women in the care of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. They say allegations that black women are provided a standard of care below what is provided to other women who are not black when receiving health care services related to labor and delivery. Now, think about how dangerous that is. If black women are already dying at 2.6 times the rate of white women, European American women in general, in hospitals overall, think how dangerous that is if not only we already know we're dying at a higher rate, you're going to go ahead and provide a lower standard of care. And, they say that this is a priority for the Biden administration, as it should be. They say maternal health is a priority for the Biden-Harris administration, and one in which Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights is working around the country to ensure equity, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Watch this space. It's funny, I was talking to a friend yesterday about how, they were thinking they've been planning to buy a Tesla. But now they're not sure if they want to do it because Tesla is facing the largest civil rights lawsuit in California history for discrimination against black people. Back to the anti-blackness. Again, I'm here for the BIPOC conversation, but it's also important to remember that the tip of that spear is anti-blackness. So my friend is black and he's saying, do I go ahead and get this car even though Tesla has, hundreds of black workers have complained, dozens part of this lawsuit saying they were treated worse because they were black. That's a luxury car. I see so many black people driving around in them. And I get it. But, they're nice cars. They look nice. They drive nice. They make you feel good about yourself and your carbon footprint. But I couldn't do it. I don't think I could do it unless, there was an apology and a major restructuring of the way black folks are treated there, an epiphany of sorts for the CEO of that company, Mr. Elon Musk. So it's similar, we think Cedars-Sinai is the best hospital because it's in Beverly Hills and or Beverly Hills adjacent. I don't know if that's quite Beverly Hills, but it's right there. And celebrities go there and it has a brand name. And now you find out there's a federal investigation specifically about discrimination against black women giving birth. But these theories about their ice being colder continue to drive our decision making. What is the talking point? That's not even a talking point because most of us won't say it out loud. The talking point is the white man's ice is colder, but the reality is most people would never admit that they believe that. It's just a behavior. So this is a talking point we have to check ourselves. Why am I getting brand X instead of brand Y? Why do I think it would be better to get, and unfortunately, at least as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, 800-920-1580. I don't think we have a black car manufacturer. I'm not aware of one. Certainly not in this country. But, why would my default first thought be, get the Tesla, get the buy white, buy big corporate instead of recycling my dollars? And why would I assume automatically, as I did, admittedly, that I'll get better care at a hospital like Cedars-Sinai, when in reality, in this case, you would be safer and more likely to survive childbirth as a black woman if you were in the care of Martin Luther King Community Hospital. Actually, a lot safer. Let that sink in. Because I think we've got to start deprogramming our own minds in terms of that talking point. Theirs is better. The brand name is better. The big corporation is better. You know what? I think, I haven't seen this data yet, but I'm going to look for it. I would love to compare the maternal mortality rate in African nations. Not nations, I'll say cities. Like, I'd love to compare LA to Cape Town, because I suspect that black women are living more. I would suspect that, just based on the fact that, the amazing, huge hospital that we saw in Johannesburg. Something to consider, but certainly something to program our minds with as we consider the things we say, the things we repeat in our minds over and over again. Are they serving us? Are they serving our children? Are they serving our communities? 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DePrima, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
The family of Keenan Anderson is suing the city of Los Angeles for $100 million. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. Keenan Anderson, a high school English teacher that was visiting Los Angeles from Washington, D.C., was tragically killed at the hands of the Los Angeles Police Department in January of this year. His family, alongside civil rights and personal injury attorney Benjamin Crump and Carl Douglas, have announced a $100 million lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles. Crump and Douglas are representing Keenan Anderson's son, Sincere Anderson, and his mother, Gabrielle Hansel. The family is suing for civil rights violations, assault and battery, false imprisonment, and negligence on the part of the LAPD officers. The family of Keenan Anderson and attorneys Crump and Douglas want it to be known that this is only part of a systemic issue within the fabric of police departments everywhere.
Hey LA, are you feeling the heat? LADWP has rebates up to $225 on new air conditioners to help you beat the heat and save money. Plus, you can sign up for Level Pay to get predictable monthly bills for easy budgeting. Stay cool. Visit LADWP.com/COOL-LA. That's LADWP.com/COOL-LA.
Hey Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Are you looking to steer your career in a new direction? Driving for Culver City Bus can be your ticket to a long-lasting career with excellent benefits and paid training. Culver City Bus is looking for customer service and safety-minded bus operators to join the growing team. Culver City Bus offers on-the-job training starting at $19.10 per hour, uniform allowance, and health benefits. Culver City Bus is a great employer. Let Culver City Bus connect you with an essential service job. If you enjoy driving, seek real opportunities for career advancement, and passionate about making a difference in the community, then you are invited to join the Culver City Bus team. Start your journey today by submitting an application at culvercity.org/jobs. For more info, visit culvercitybus.com or call live customer service operators at 310-253-6500.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, it's interesting how things come out, right? You have an election, and you think you're doing your due diligence, and you vote, and we all vote, and people make endorsements. Newspapers, individuals. You know, it's happened to me. You endorse someone, and then you think, oh, wow, I wish I would have known that. Stuff comes out over time. Now we're finding that apparently the Los Angeles City Attorney, Heidi Feldstein Soto, got a campaign contribution from somebody who she later advocated to get a big job within the Bass administration, specifically dealing with unhoused people. This, remember the Skid Row organization that went under, that it's called Skid Row Housing Trust. They fell apart financially, and all of these people in their rundown, jacked up buildings in jeopardy of losing a place to live, and those buildings had fallen into disrepair. Lots and lots of money needed to get them up to code or even make them truly habitable. And apparently the city attorney, Heidi Feldstein Soto, advocated for this guy to take over those Skid Row Housing Trust buildings. His name is Mark Adams, to lead this receivership. It's 29 different buildings. And she didn't disclose the fact that he had done a campaign fundraiser for her and contributed to her reelection. Now, I don't think it's necessarily problematic. There are lots of people in politics that hire people that worked for them and raised money for them. I mean, if you believe in someone as a lawmaker, then you're going to work for them, and then you may end up taking a position in their administration. That's not strange. What's strange is that in a high-profile situation like this, you wouldn't mention it, especially when this guy Adams was later forced to resign because he wasn't able to do the job that he said he was going to do, to raise the funds, to get those dilapidated buildings, on track. It didn't happen. He wasn't able to. He didn't even come up with clear reporting on how he spent the money that he had, and so he stepped down. This was just a couple weeks ago. Now, the city attorney apologized for. She said she messed up. She shouldn't have recommended this guy. He stepped down. But I remember when we first started reading about him, how some concerns were brought up regarding the way he does business. Curiouser and curiouser. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars, working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage, career-track jobs. The Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing around anti-discrimination, learn about union apprenticeship programs, or sign on to a trade registry, please visit www.lablackworkerscenter.org. That's lablackworkerscenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Yeah, so what does due diligence look like? Apparently they didn't do a background check for this guy, Adams, and the city, they had to step up with an emergency $10 million to keep all these folks in these 29 rundown buildings, in their housing, and the housing still hasn't been fixed up. Meanwhile, we, the taxpayers, owe this dude a whole bunch of money. The city attorney, Heidi Feldstein Soto, is saying, she disclosed the fact that this guy gave her campaign contributions to some other folks in the city. They knew about it, and that it's not her fault, and that basically, he misrepresented himself to her. Now, he says she misrepresented herself to him. It's a big old mess. It's a mess and a headache that we don't need as we try to take on the houselessness crisis, and one which surprises me considering that this particular city attorney represented herself as, an accountant who would definitely do due diligence in everything. And this is the same person, by the way, who is working to try to make less transparency. In other words, remember the whole scandal with those police records? There was a public information request made by journalists to the LAPD for the names of their officers, because a lot of times officers like to cover up their badges and this kind of thing. And after many, many delays, the city the police department handed over the info to the city, and the city handed it over to the journalists. And then the journalists put it online on websites, as is their right once they got it. And then the police department said that some of those were undercover officers. They should never have been put up on a website, which no one would have known. I mean, if they just would have left it there, no one would have been, let me look for the undercover guys. But they, and it's terrible if those folks were put at risk. However, that's not the fault of the journalists. That's the city and the LAPD who did not handle their business, even though after delay after delay after delay, they finally cough up the information. Now, Heidi Feldstein Soto has come up with some legislation that would allow government agencies to deny these types of public record requests from journalists, to deny requests that seek images or data that may personally identify an individual. So that means what you're saying is that we can't do our jobs. We can only get information that doesn't identify people. How can you tell a story? How can you hold elected officials accountable? How can you hold law enforcement accountable? It reminds me of the constant battles to have the names of officers released when they kill someone. Those are Banana Republic type rules. Those are authoritarian type rules. Those are the kinds of things we clown Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un for doing, right? That's really what it is. I mean, it might sound like hyperbole, but that's the reality. You're talking about taking away a journalist's right to identify a person. And it's not just journalists, it's also scholars, right? Authors, and yes, activists, because we also have a right to know so that the public can know. And many times it is the activists and the journalists who discover these kinds of things that end up changing policy, changing who gets elected, moving the course of history. Apparently, lawyers who have looked at this bill of city attorneys say that it would allow agencies to refuse to provide the names of government employees and government officials. Basically, it would shut down the Public Records Act, which means, that's like a Trumpian wet dream. I can stop you from finding out anything, the names of anything, of anybody who did anything, who killed your kid, killed you. She's calling it a minor tweak to the Public Records Act. And by minor tweak, we mean taking away your right to a free press. That's really what it means. Because if I get shut down at every turn, and I've been in that position. In fact, when I first moved to LA, I was working for Buena Vista Television on a documentary. And I was just trying to get simple information from the LAPD. Back then, they would basically just hang up in your face. They had no love. So basically what you're talking about is a return to less transparency. That's not a good look. You don't want to be transparent with us, but now we see why. News, traffic, and sports, and then it'll be a lively Talking Point Tuesday around here. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for sharing a part of your Tuesday morning with us here on the Black Information Network. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest. It still isn't clear as to how a small bag of cocaine ended up